Training and Resource Development Manager at the Men's Development Network. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. You're really welcome. It's Lorcan here at the bottom of the garden, actually, today again, from the Men's Development Network. Delighted to invite you to be part of the launch of International Men's Health Week. And as I say, also we have a very special launch later on that we'll have Fergal here for, and that's actually our new Action Man booklet. But look, we have loads of people who are going to join us in a while, and they will be of, say, people who inform and informing in relation to some of the good news stories that we have for International Men's Health Week. So thank you for joining us. Now, before we begin this morning, a really kind word from Minister Nocton, who was on to us earlier on and sent a really kind, as I say, word in relation to the support of not just this webinar, but indeed International Men's Health Week. And she says to us, I'm delighted to support Men's Health Week 2023, and I would like to thank the many participants and partners who have worked so hard to put together a fabulous agenda of events and resources here in Ireland. Men's Health Week highlights how important it is for men to take care of our own health and seek treatment early when necessary. Statistically, men have higher death rates than women in almost all leading causes of death, regardless of age. So I would encourage everyone to engage with this event and the events and information offered, and to ensure that you achieve your own best picture of health. So that's where we're going today, as I say, and as I've already said, we have some really, really good people who are coming on with us. So we're going to have a number of people as well as later on. We always have Fergal who will come on, and he's a special task today, as well as coming on to tell us about the updates in relation to what's happening in the world of men's health and beyond. But he's also going to launch the week, and he's going to launch our booklet that we're going to talk about. Now, before we go any further, you can see two people coming in here on our screens at the moment, because to start us off today, we're bringing on two people who are so involved in men's health on the island of Ireland. I suppose some people might know them, some people might not, but you know them by the end of this interview anyway. So I have on here, first of all, Colin Fowler. And Colin, of course, has been with us for a long time. And really, I suppose, Colin, you're one of the really key architects of the dissemination of men's health on the island of Ireland, which is really great to have you here. And you're a core part of the Men's Health Forum in Ireland. And for many years, you've also been part of research and development and involved in so many things nationally and internationally. We could go on forever, but you're here today, especially in relation to Men's Health Week. And down below, we have Finian Murray, who's a senior social worker with the HSE. And Finian as well is very much part of the core of the work that's rolled out on the island of Ireland. And he's one of our engaged trainers who works nationally to support many of the different initiatives, part of MHFI as well, and part of many other core elements in relation to men's health on the island as well. But they're going to start us off here today, and they're going to talk to us about a number of things, the why of men's health, why we're here at all, and especially, as I say, in relation to the resources, the supports that we have for the week. And if you don't mind, Finian, you're both very, very welcome, first of all. I'm just going to start with Finian. And Finian, can you tell us why we're here today, the why of men's health? Where did it all start and why did it begin? If you're able to tell us that, it would be really supportive and helpful.
Yes, good afternoon, Lorcan. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, Men's Health, would you believe, Men's Health Week began in 1998. It was Bill Clinton in America who first came up with the whole idea of men's health, and he got it passed into Congress over there. But we didn't celebrate it this time, or actually on this part of the world, until the noughties, about 2000. In Ireland, it was 2005 before we celebrated Men's Health Week first. And our first campaign was simply a poster campaign called Hazardous Waste. So it showed a cartoon of a man with quite heavy weight around the stomach, and it's encouraging men to lose weight for their health. And now Men's Health Week, it's celebrated all over the world. It's the week before Father's Day. It begins on the Monday before Father's Day and finishes on Father's Day itself. And it's celebrated all over the world, in the US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and a number of places worldwide as well. And the overall aims of the week then are simply to heighten awareness of the preventable health problems for men of all ages, support men and boys to engage in healthier lifestyles, and encourage the early detection and treatment of health difficulties. So they're the main aims for Men's Health Week that we roll out each year.
Now, Finian, we'll stay with you for a moment, because a core element of what's happened on the island of Ireland from that kind of small beginning poster campaign has grown to 100+ partners who represent many organizations nationally and who are part of even the design, the support, the posters, the resource that Colleen's going to talk about in a few moments' time. You know, that's really a good news story, the linked up thinking in relation to developing all that has happened in Men's Health Week over the years.
Yeah, and all that happened in 2011. Up until then, we just had one main event for Men's Health Week every year. We had a mental health conference in Winds Hotel, for example, one of the years, and we also had a run in the Phoenix Park, which ended up in Malahide. But from 2011 on, we decided that rather than just pour our energy into one event, why don't we get partners on board, and then we will be able to multiply those events all over the country. So from then on, we started building up the whole partnership approach, and through the Men's Health Forum in Ireland and Colleen Fowler and yourselves in the Men Development Network and the HSE, of course, ourselves, we actually invited people to become part of the All Ireland Planning Health Group for Men's Health Week. And now we have actually, would you believe, over 100 partners who contribute to an interagency planning group. And we meet in December of the previous year. So for Men's Health Week this year, we actually met in 2022 to work on the theme. And, you know, as I was saying, in the past, we held one event. And now the advantage of working in partnership is that we have hundreds of events happening now during the week this year.
Holly, I'm just going to bring in for a moment because, you know, Finian's just laying out the stall. We're going to look at the website now in a few moments, not yet, but just to say, part of the partnership and over the years of working as service providers together, especially, it's been huge learning. And especially, you know, in the past, perhaps we used to awfulize men's health. And there's a lot of challenges in relation to men's health, but a strengths-based approach, a value-based approach, that's been important. And we've learned and sustained and developed that as partners together. Is that true? And why, if it is true, is that important?
Yeah, it is. And of course, it is true, Larkin. I think the reason for that's quite simple. When you put 100 different organizations together around a table, or a virtual table in our case, it's very hard to find the common threads and the common grounds. And I suppose early on, we realized that we all needed to start from the same place so that we're pulling in the same direction. And so the three of ourselves speaking here today, we're part and parcel of some of those early efforts to find this vision, this value base that we could all agree to and sign up to. And what we decided was quite simple. We wouldn't blame men for their own ill health. Yes, of course, men can do some things to change their health. They can take control, as Action Man later on will talk about. But a lot of men's health issues are also about the services that they're offered, the environments that they live in, the culture that they're brought up in, their access to money and education and healthcare services. So what we decided to do was have a vision which was very strengths-based. They would start with what men could do, not the things that they couldn't do, not the things they were bad at, not the things that held them back, but to start looking at the things that men could do and have this vision which moved away from men in crisis headlines. Because every year, men's health weeks across the world have a lot of media, TV and radio who come up with, you know, men's health in crisis, toxic masculinities. And it's all very much about death rates. And it's all very much about all the problems with men around the world. So we agreed and wrote down and signed up to every year this very, very positive image of what we should be doing.
Very good. You're reminding me as well, Collie, that Men's Health Week is not just about and for men. It's also a call out to service providers. And Finian, you know, in relation to that, it's not just a call to us as men and men all over Ireland to kind of reflect on the incremental changes maybe we can make. We'll come to that in a few moments, but it's also for service providers to ask us to reflect on our practice and how we can get it better.
Yeah, like health and well-being for men, it's not just about individual men making lifestyle changes, but it's also affected by the environment they live in, the jobs that they carry out, the pressures they face in the world, which emphasizes gender roles, the way that services engage with them, pretty much the social determinants of health. You know, they're very powerful influencers on men's health and well-being. So that's why Men's Health Week, as you say, is not just about individual men making lifestyle changes. It's also about, you know, services and the wider society, you know, taking on Men's Health Week every year and, you know, helping us with the theme and improving the health of men and boys on the island of Ireland.
Okay. Now, Collie, I'm going to come to you because we're flying on time already. We have a fairly packed agenda today. you know, you have a website that's second to none in relation to, it's a one-stop shop for anybody looking in here today, whether a man, a service provider, whoever we are, wherever we are. This is the way to get involved. It's only Monday, folks, so have a watch in on this, because Collie is going to share with us, I think, the website just for a few moments and show you the range of resources that we have here in relation to Men's Health Week. So go for that there, Collie, if you want to, and have a chat to us about that if you can.
Thanks, Larkin. I suppose maybe if we could do, just as a wee introduction to this, if we could ask Jean and the others in the background, that one of the resources we have every year for Men's Health Week is to get it into the public domain to promote it. And so that's the kind of common tool to tell people there's a countdown to Men's Health Week and that it's on its way. So maybe if we could ask Jean just to open that with showing us that wee short video. Thanks very much, Jean.
Well done. You'll be ready to rock after that.
I think we all will be. So as you said, Larkin, we have a website, and the website itself is this commonly owned space for everyone who's part of the planning process for Men's Health Week each year. It has a dedicated page, and it has all of the information, literally everything that we have, everything that we know about Men's Health Week appears in this page. So a whistle-stop tour, you go to the page, you scroll down. When you come down a wee bit more, you can see the video we've just had a look at there, of course, but then you come to a menu, and the menu helps us to orientate ourselves because we've lots of information here. There's literally hundreds of different pieces of information. So it kind of helps us to see in a quick and easy navigable way how to find what we want. But for this year, there's a few things maybe to point out. Last year, we worked with Technological University in Dublin to produce an online game for men. It's a wee online retro arcade style game called Agent Man. So for starters, we asked people, why don't you have a go at playing that game? A lot of men like online gaming. This is a safe one. It doesn't ask you for money. You don't buy credits. It's a nice, simple and safe way to do it. And the task is easy. Your mission is to get dossiers with health intelligence and to save them and learn them and do something with them. So we invite people to come and start out with the Agent Man, and the Agent Man is the first thing on the menu here. But what we also have, of course, for Men's Health Week this year is we have podcasts that Finney and Anne, who you'll meet later on, did, that kind of explains what the week is. If you don't want to read about it, listen to people tell you about it. But I suppose our big resources for the week are our posters for Men's Health Week. And our posters every year are probably among the most popular resources that come out of the process of planning. You have one up behind you there, I can see, Larkin, at your shed at the bottom of the garden. And the posters come in both hard copies and also electronically. And what it does, it gives us this common bond among ourselves, the common brand that we can all identify with. And we poured for long and many's an hour over the imagery each year. And this one's a hand-drawn image that we got done for us this year, trying to show the diversity of men in Ireland. And of course, we can't get everyone in, but trying to show as much as possible. And you can see the strap line for this year, watch your picture of health. That's the theme and the overarching theme for Men's Health Week this year. Now, that's quite important, of course, because in Ireland, we have that expression. We say, sure, your man's the picture of health. And it doesn't matter if the man's looking the picture of health or whether he's actually in a coffin. Sometimes we use it in that very ironic and that very dark humor way as well. But it's an expression that rolls off our tongue here in Ireland. And so what we'd like to point out to people is if you go to this site, you can get the posters, you can have a look down, you can get a postcard version, though unfortunately we've ran out of hard copies of all these resources now. We spent a huge amount of time and energy producing thousands and thousands of copies, which have all gone. But I suppose just the last couple of things to point out that's important is that everything is still there electronically. There's a graphics pack for people. You can see all of the images and all of the logos in different formats. And of course, most importantly, you can get yourself a toolkit for action with all your questions answered.
Holly, that's a really super website. It's there for everybody. You just go in and grab your banners, you know, your headlines, your toolkit, how to get involved. It is all there. And again, Finian, I think, was going to talk to me a little bit about this thing that we're showing here on the screen as we speak, and this is, I think, the kingpin of the week, and we're lucky to have it. Both Collie and Finian did quite a bit of work on this, and it looks really, really good. Finian, tell me about the Action Man booklet briefly. Just why should we go grab that there now?
Yeah, the Action Man booklet, like we always felt that we always needed a booklet ourselves. Over the last number of years, we've been relying on the Haynes Man Manual, which is written by Dr. Wiedenbanks, but we felt we never owned it, even though we adapted to the All Ireland situation. So we always felt that we would need our own booklet. And Fergal, just before the end of last year, he was saying that there was some money available to develop a men's health booklet. So I got in touch with Collie, and I was saying maybe we should come together and develop this booklet, because I was working on a booklet way back in the 2000s. So we used that as the basic template, and we kind of updated it then, and over and back. So we aim to have it ready for Men's Health Week, and it was a bit of a rush at the end, but we actually got there. And thanks to Slickfish, who actually did the design on it, and it's a 40-page booklet. It actually has all the main topics. For example, there's a section on healthy eating, there's a section on physical activity, mental fitness, smoking, alcohol, heart health, sexual health, cancer prevention, getting connected, and accident prevention. So they're the main topics that are covered in the booklet. And just to let you know how it's structured, it's why an action is needed. So that each topic has this: why the action is needed, what can be done about it, and how can you find more support to deal with it. So that's the way it's laid out, similar to the Man Manual. And we've used humor, and we've used there's a little quiz all the way through. Some of the quiz questions are coming up on the webinar, and we also have some comic strips as well. So, and we also have the top tips at the end. So that's just a quick summary of and that's it there.
It's
Lorcan
beautiful.
has a copy of it
So
there.
if you can, as I say, Dana Marie is putting up the links there, folks. You can just go grab and have a look and read it, or the hard copies. It's just really, really, really important. As I say, and it says on the beginning of it, reading this booklet could seriously improve your health. So there is really a lot of really good information in there in relation. Collie, this is an important question. We're running on time here, just keeping an eye on the clock. Men and information, not all men looking in or men we know at the moment are feeling well or good. And I'm going to be talking to Dr. Mark Rowe in a few moments about men and services. Having the really good information within one set of covers, signposting that you can stand over, it's elemental, isn't it, to promoting men's health on the island of Ireland?
I think it is, Lorcan, and that's why Finian and myself invested so much time in trying to get this together. What we found is that there's been a hunger for it as well among men. It's very easy for service providers to say, we have 1,000 new leaflets sitting about, but it's the proof of the pudding is in who reads them and who takes them. And over the past couple of weeks, the booklet's only been launched today, but already nearly 30,000 hard copies of that booklet are in the field, requested by men's groups and sheds and projects around the country, and about nearly another 40,000 downloads on it. So that kind of shows, firstly, that there's a hunger, because the thought is always that men aren't interested in their health. And I suppose the message is men are interested in their health if we offer them the right things in the right ways at the right time. And I think what the call out from today really is that we want to try to get that booklet into the hands of as many men as possible. And service providers have their role to play in that as well.
And as you say, this can be downloaded from your website. Click of a button. It's already been put up there in the chat bar, and you can send it wherever you wish to other people, the man you know, the brother, the uncle. Put it with an email, thinking of you for Men's Health Week. There's loads of ways of getting it out into the world. And it's just, you can see it there, folks. A lot of light, a lot of information, and a lot of really, really good, appropriate signposting, which is at the heart of it. Folks, we're just running on time, but it's a really good piece of work. And Collie, the website is such a resource, not just for Men's Health Week. It's so much other information on there that's really relevant to men's health on the island of Ireland. And again, thanks to Finian and yourself for being with us today. We wish all the men and the service providers on the island of Ireland a really good week. And we're saying, people, please get this out and the other resources for the week and beyond. It's not just for June. It's not just for 1 week. This is for the year ahead. So thank you very much for being with us today and for sharing with us about Men's Health Week and the Action Man booklet.
Thanks, Larkin.
Good, thank you.
So folks, there you have it. Look at it, it's just to go and get it. It's already been linked into the bar and you have it. And we're going to have on somebody else who's going to naturally lead on from that conversation, because now we're talking about service provision. And Mark Rowe is coming on. Dr. Mark Rowe is somebody maybe that you might know in a few moments' time. And yeah, Mark is, here he is. He's coming on to be with us here. And we're going to show a video as well, I think, Mark, as well, just to have a look at maybe together. It's only a short video. But Mark, you've been working for 25 years in Waterford. You've done a fantastic renovation on the service that you have down there that provides a really open, engaging service to go in and use for anybody in health or in sickness. You've been very much part of developing what we call team approaches to health and men's health. You have your blog, you have your podcast, and you've been writing in this area and promoting men's health for a good while. So it's super that you're here with us just to talk to us today about men's health. But yeah, as part of an introduction, we're going to maybe show a little video here, I think. And if we can show this and maybe stay with us, I think it's a really good news story in relation to one man, Mark, who's able to make a change, a small incremental change that has a huge benefit. And that maybe would be a nice place to start from talking. This is Kieran. Have a watch, folks.
Hello, my name is Kieran. In 2016, April 2016, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. My first step in trying to recover or to reverse it was, on the advice of my doctor, to lose some weight. He said I was a minimum of 2 stone overweight. So I started going to a gym, watching my diet, reading labels, watching the sugar content and everything. And the biggest thing was making food from scratch. Cut out all pre-prepared stuff. After 6 months, I went back to my doctor. He said, yes, my weight was down. I was down a half stone at that stage, and my sugars had started to reverse. After a year and 3 months, I was off medication. Doctor told me my sugar levels had gone back to what would be recognised as normal for a person of my age and weight. At that stage, I had lost the 2 stone plus a half. I was down to 12 stone from 14 and a half. I cycle to work every day now. I watch what I eat. My sugars have been maintained. They're actually lower now than they've ever been any time I was ever checked. And hopefully I will be able to maintain that. So my advice to anyone who has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes is to lose weight, watch what you're eating, your sugar content, and get regular exercise.
Now, that's Kieran's story, Mark, and I'm sure you meet many men who come to you and come to use their service, and especially in relation to their health. Small changes are possible that can have huge benefit if we do them in an incremental way.
Lorcan, thanks so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be part of what is, I believe, a really, really important initiative, which is, you know, bringing men's health and well-being front and center into the national conversation. And I think that short video really epitomizes so many positive messages about health and well-being. Firstly, you know, I call health the crown on the well person's head that often only the sick person can see. In other words, you know, it's such a priceless asset, and yet many of us, we take our health for granted unless or until something happens, when then we might decide we're going to do something about it. And that's what Kieran did. He decided, you know, not to be a passive consumer of healthcare, not to simply rely on a lot of prescriptions, even though sometimes medication can be, you know, life-saving. He chose to become an active participant in his own well-being. He chose to improve his health IQ. Health IQ is a really, really important, simple idea that by improving our knowledge, our awareness, and our attitudes towards our health, we can make better choices and better decisions day in and day out. And that's what Kieran did. And, you know, it was starting small, but it was about starting. And, you know, one of the magic ingredients in improving your health, in my opinion, I've seen it so many times over the years, is consistency. Yeah. And just sticking with it. And that's what he did. And it's amazing, that magic ingredient called delta T, or time, one day very quickly turns into 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And, what's really interesting, Lorcan, I feel, is that we're constantly changing, all of us. And we can all have this illusion that where we are today is the final finished version of ourselves. It's kind of a psychological bias we can have. But the reality is we're constantly changing and evolving. And really the question is for all of us, am I going to evolve and change in a health enhancing or in a health depleting direction? And that's what's so exciting, is that those small changes, simply committing to start, can put you on a whole new different pathway towards improved health and enhanced well-being. And everybody gets to benefit from that. Your loved ones, your family, your work colleagues, any organizations you're part of, and you yourself. You get to reap the benefits of the golden egg of improved health and enhanced vitality.
Mark, early on, you heard Finian saying that, for example, that, we have the stats on men's health and certain demographics of men and subpopulations of men. And even for Men's Health Week, we do try to market in a strengths-based way, and we try and bring some light around the issues. But the challenges for many men in relation to our health, can be great. Is it your experience as a GP that, that you see more men becoming more aware of the possibility of taking more control of our health and acting for the good in that relation over the years? Do you see that happening?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there's always more to go, and there's always more improvements to be had. But, from my experience on the coalface, I'm having completely different conversations with men compared to the conversations I would have had when I started out as a GP nearly 30 years ago. Guys will come in now and they will talk about their experience of emotional exhaustion and burnout. Guys will talk about their depression. Guys will talk, if you probe enough, about their cocaine, young guys in particular, about their alcohol. People will talk about, erectile dysfunction. And many of these sort of what would have been considered taboo issues in the past are now more front and center. And I think, though, there is a saying, in Ireland, not in Ireland, but in medicine, that it's a bit tongue in cheek, that you get the patients you deserve. So, I think people are very, very smart, and they will try you out as a doctor. But if you become a kind of a trusted friend and a partner in someone's health journey, as many GPs are, there's a lot of trust there. And if you're willing to listen and ask open-ended questions, when you gain that trust, then people are inclined to talk to you about their deepest worries, fears, and concerns. And it's a great privilege to be in a position to listen and to support, and sometimes to cure and help them on their way.
I was just going to ask you a question around what you've just said, and maybe you could fill out the nuance of it for me. I just checked in with you about doing the webinar a couple of weeks ago. I thought it would be in a few minutes. Hello, we see you on the screen, and we ended up chatting and talking, and it was the personability that stayed with me, that we're talking about now. I just felt that it grew into something. And I was thinking afterwards, I read your blog about somebody recently celebrating a life achievement of huge service. And you were talking about the evidence we have for wellness and well-being around finding connection and presence. To be present. How important are we losing some of that maybe in the new types of approaches we have, or is it well safeguarded that presence is a really important part, especially for men who can be a bit shy using the service? You have to kind of feel this belongs to me. What's your sense of that?
I think it's very, very hard to generalize, because everybody sees the world through their own eyes. But what I would say is, in the world out there, let's say, there's a huge amount of stress for people nowadays, whether it's financial stress, the busyness of living your life. There's a lot of distraction, and it's very hard to be present. And, I suppose more than anything else, Lorcan, what I've learned over the years is how interconnected the various elements of our health and well-being are. In other words, if you think of your hand, I talk about it in my book, The Vitality Mark, the hand of vitality. The little finger represents our emotional well-being, which is, our sense of gratitude and kindness and compassion. The ring finger is like our physical health, our maybe the attributes of our exercise and movement, our sleep, our nutrition. The middle finger is like our sense of purpose, which might be our sense of spirituality, or our sense of deeper connection to the world, or to our higher power, to nature, or to whatever, to our values. And then the index finger is our mind, our mental well-being, mental presence, resilience. And these four elements are all interconnected. So if you weaken one, you weaken them all. But if you strengthen one, you strengthen them all. And they are so interconnected. So, sometimes improving your health can be as simple as choosing to get up off the couch and go out for a 10-minute walk. Moving for 10 minutes will change your emotional state, dampen down stress hormones, and start to bring on all of those great neurochemicals like serotonin, oxytocin, noradrenaline, and so on. And, some of the really wise doctors that I refer to were really the old wisdom philosophers. If you think of Hippocrates, he said, if you're in a bad mood, go for a walk. And if you're still in a bad mood, go for another walk. That it really can be the small little habits that can make a big difference. And of course, it's good to talk. And I think on the one hand, guys are getting better at talking. And on the other hand, we've still a long way to go. I mean, only last week I had a distressed call from a patient, and her husband had nearly he was rescued. He was going to throw himself into the river. And this is somebody who was really struggling with their mental health, and they were getting help, but they just pushed the red button. And it's fortunately he was saved. But I mean, it's extraordinary how vulnerable and fragile men can be behind that external veneer of, I suppose, invincibility.
Mark, on that, for men perhaps, and I know even myself recently, services are busy, and you let something go and then you have to get an antibiotic, just even a simple thing. But for men who maybe say, oh, look at, I won't, and they might be in bad form, or they might be struggling with some aspect, and there's still a sense in the ether that I won't annoy the doctor. What is your word to people out there today at this time where we are now? We are post-COVID, but I think there's stuff still in the ether in relation to, I might leave it, I won't bother. What would you be saying to the men of Ireland, especially in the start of Men's Health Week, if there's a care or a concern or something in relation to their health?
I would say simply, as Socrates said better than I ever could, know yourself. Know what's normal for you. And if there's a change in your waterworks, if there's a change in your bowel habit, if there's a change in your breathing or whatever, get it checked out. If there's a change in your mental health, if you're not sleeping, if your mood is persistently low, if you're feeling very sad, or if you're having black thoughts, you get it checked out. So know yourself, know what's normal, and take action. Don't stick your head in the sand. A problem shared is a problem halved. And your doctor is there to help and support you. And if you don't want to go and talk to your doctor, talk to your friend, or talk to somebody. And that's the first step to taking action, because it's all about action, and ignoring things won't make them go away, and it can make a world of a difference.
You have a long experience of working in the area of interest on men's health. You're one of the first writers. I remember reading your book many years ago, and I started working in this area myself, and there was very little out there. So you've a lot of experience. For yourself, Mark, nationally, internationally, what do you think are the standout moments in relation to what's working for connecting with men or supporting men to become more aware of and active in relation to our health and well-being?
Well, I think that there's many things, but I think building connectivity is great for men, and you can think of so many ways that's happening. The Men Shed movement, I think that has been fantastic for a certain cohort. We have the Solace Centre here, a cancer support centre. They do wonderful work in terms of providing counselling and complementary health services for men who are struck down with cancer. But we have runs for life and a community walk. So I suppose building that sense of community, whatever we can do to build community, because we are all interconnected, and that can really make a big difference for men. Loneliness really is the most terrible poverty, and it can have such a negative impact. I think there's a lot being done to improve this term health IQ, and everything we can do, as I say, to make people, men in particular, active participants in their own well-being as opposed to passive consumers of healthcare, I think is fantastic. I think we have a lot more to go. If you look at addiction, if you look at cocaine, and if you look at alcohol, those two things are causing a lot of destruction in men's lives and by extension in the lives of families right across this island. And so we have a long way to go there in terms of educating people about the potential risks and bringing in safe strategies to support people who want to get into recovery.
In relation to that, you heard Finian and Collie saying earlier on 100+ partners for Men's Health Week on the island of Ireland now. So you have that symmetry and synergy.
Fantastic.
And thinking. Your own work, I know your own plant is interdisciplinary. So how important is that in relation to building the approach to healthcare and for men and population health as we go forward in the world?
It's absolutely massive, Lorcan. I mean, I see it very simply. I think, service is the rent we all pay for the privilege of living on this earth. We all have to use whatever gifts and talents and opportunities that we get in whatever area. But I actually do see health as very much part of that interconnected chain. And health is much more than the absence of disease. It's a state of complete well-being. So now you have to look at sporting facilities, sports clubs, education, community activities, how you're plugging it all in together. I mean, down here in Waterford, we have a wonderful greenway that opened up a number of years ago, and that's providing a real artery, as I see it, between Waterford City and Dungarvan, a 30-mile stretch that people can walk or run on. So you're enhancing the environment. Environment is so important. Yeah. I know the Men's Shed have gone out there and they put in lovely bee hotels for the bees. I mean, that's just brilliant, thinking outside the box, and that's improving the environment, and it's building relationship and building community and building a sense of place, because we all need to have a strong sense of purpose about who we are. So, I think, it's all about everybody working together and doing whatever they can where they are. It's very easy for anybody to start talking about problems or whatever, or the negative, but no, nothing ever constructive really ever came out of that. So it's about a strength-based approach, being positive, and I think really people really encouraging each other more. There's a lot of people out there in all aspects of the health space doing great work. Yeah. But people deserve and actually need a bit of encouragement. It's very easy to criticize, but encouragement, encourage, as the French said, with courage. I think it's a lovely word to encourage each other a little bit more.
Mark, we've run on time. It's a lovely place to end this conversation. Hopefully we'll have more to encourage each other with courage and to find those connections to the men of Ireland, especially for the week that's in it. Thank you for your own work and your own writing. And I know while we were speaking, the links were going up to your podcast, really worth having a listen, and your blog and your other writing. So it's been fantastic that you could join us today, and all good things to you in your work and for the week yourself as a man on the island of Ireland. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure, Lorcan.
That was Dr. Mark Rowe. Really interesting, really worth having a listen to the podcast, reading his blog. He's been doing so much work in the last good number of years in relation to promoting all kinds of health on the island of Ireland, but especially as well in relation to men's health. Now, in a few moments' time, we promised you we were bringing a panel along as well. But before we go to our panel discussion, the time is flying for us. We do want you to watch one more short video. I love this video. It's when we get it right as service providers. It's a short little video, but it celebrates, I think, an initiative that really engaged with men in a very respectful, proactive and engaging way. And it's the Larkin Centre video, Through the Eyes of Men. So sit back, please, and have a watch.
So the community education programme has been running since 2000, and the idea of it is to support people in the community to kind of return to education and respond to their learning needs in a way that's kind of relevant and appropriate to them.
I've done a computer course in the Larkin Centre, and towards the end of that I was approached by Anne Flannery, and she asked me would I like to partake in the men's health course, and I said yes, certainly, why not? What else would you be doing?
Well, initially I started off doing the men's health course,
which is very good for people that's independent, that they don't realise that they could have like high sugar content or salt content.
I used to be always into salt. I'd never check. If I went into a shop and the last thing I'd look at was the content of what was in the tin, you know what I mean? I'd look at the price, but that was it.
So not only has the programme been hugely beneficial in terms of promoting the health and well-being of men, it has opened up other avenues and doors for a number of them. So we're sitting here in the Pat Murphy Community Garden, and this garden has come about thanks to the Men's Health and Wellbeing programme.
This place was a shambles here. It was like a building site just toppled down. It was all bricks and weeds. So we got in and we cleaned it up and we formed our garden from there.
It's the fact that you plant your own vegetables. You can take your own vegetables home with you. Instead of going to the supermarket and buying them, you can grow them. You know, you can actually see it. You can show your kids how to do it. You can put it this way, you can learn a lot from doing what you're doing here.
The camaraderie was brilliant. I mean, I got to know guys that I didn't even know. I knew them to sell loads, but that was it. We got to know one another and everybody looked out for everybody else. All driven by the Larkin Centre again, because you were told, did you see such and such a person? No, give him a ring, see where he is. That's the way it was. And this is the end result of the Men's Health and Wellbeing programme. This is it here now. What you see here is, that's, and he'll go further. It's not finished yet.
Well, I'd like to think that I've achieved from doing the programme is that in my own self-belief, I wasn't doing very much. I was drinking a lot and other things like, but now since I've started the programme, I've changed my life around and I've been more health conscious, and I've realised that all it takes is for a bit of encouragement.
Over 320 men have participated, and each comes to the programme, you know, with a different set of needs and expectations, and because of its holistic approach, it can accommodate and respond to those needs.
Now, what a really super video and telling the story so well in relation to engagement. We have some people who are going to join us here now, and I'm delighted to have them for our panel discussion. And they're all ready up there in the side of my screen. I see them coming on board. We have Anne Farrell. Anne, you're really, really welcome. And just say a word about you, Anne. Anne's from the CI group, Irish Rail, Dublin Bus Air, and she certainly walks the talk. She's in health promotion as the officer there. She's an engaged trainer. She's been so much part of MHFI in promoting men's health on the island of Ireland. And she's joining us here today as well. We've Dr. Shane O'Donnell. Shane's coming from a long way off today due to technology. He's able to join us as well. And Shane is one of our engaged trainers as well nationally. And he's also been very much at the heart of research in relation to men's health on the island of Ireland over the last 7 years or so as well. And Charlie is here. Charlie Lambert will tell us a little bit about him. He's coming all the way from the west. And he's up there in the sports partnership, and he's a lot of experience as well. 15 years as well as a PE teacher, Charlie, before you moved over to the sports partnership. And you're going to bring a lot of that experience to what we want to talk about today for International Men's Health Week. Can I start with Charlie, actually, because Charlie, you know, after watching the video, I know your own experience, you were really interested when you went on to become into the role of the sports partnership coordinator. You were really interested in engaging men who might not be part of health or sport or well-being. You know, what is your own experience being around trying to promote that in your own part of the world?
Yeah, thanks, Lorcan, and great to have me on here. Yeah, well, I would have been involved, I suppose, in the old VEC system under when I was a teacher in the Be Active, Be Alive campaigns, and I would have seen maybe a gap there in older men in particular, in seeing them not being active. Once they play a sport or whatever, and they're involved in sport, suddenly they fall out of it and maybe felt that they've done enough or whatever, need a rest or whatever. And, you know, back in those days, maybe in the 90s or whatever, if you seen someone out walking or jogging, you might have said, oh, gee, there must be something wrong with, you know, that person. But look, that has thankfully changed. The culture has changed. And I suppose the history of the Men on the Move initiative that I would have been involved in through Mayo Sports Partnership, and one I'm very proud of, was it went back to a study that was done by Sport Ireland and local participation reports in physical activity levels, involvement in sport by adults. And it found that in rural Ireland, there was a deficit of participation amongst men aged 30 plus, you know, and this is something in the sports partnership we sort of looked at the participation reports. We set up a subcommittee to look at that, and the HSE are a partner in the sports partnership and other agencies, and that's the power of the sports partnership, their strength in numbers. And we looked at this and what sort of an intervention that we could make. And, you know, after discussion, etc., we looked at this whole initiative and we called it Men on the Move. I don't know who came up with it or whatever, can't remember it back, but it seemed to catch on. And the power of the program is sort of simple, very simple. And it linked in to the behavior change model, 6 stages of behavior change: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action. You know, so like there was a lot of promotion, publicity, you know, setting up the information evenings in such a way that it was attractive to men to attend. So there was a basic health check involved with it, right? There was a doctor that was there, you know, just to give a bit of advice. There was other maybe sports stars there, maybe that came on the evening, maybe just to give a little bit of an input. So it attracted men to come. It was all part of those stages. Get them there, get them to listen, and they can think about it. And then they could register for the program, which was a basic 8-week physical activity program, walking beginner program. And, you know, it caught on so well. I mean, now there's 17 sports partnerships taking part in the Men on the Move program. And this initial one, pilot program, commenced in 2013. So, look, there's a lot more opportunities there, Lorcan, for participation, and you know, for men to take part in this open water swimming. There's activator walking with pose programs, couch to 5K, couch to 50K cycling. There's loads of initiatives now. So the Men on the Move has maybe moved on a bit, you know, from those early stages.
Well, we might come back and ask you more about it, because there was really interesting findings in relation to it. But I know, Anne, you're listening to that and you're saying that rings loads of bells in your work across your company. You know, men really interested in their health, but having to find the hook and find what's going to work for them. Your experience, what stings for you in this week?
Yeah, well, we have literally men on the move, because I work in transport, so they're moving all the time, and that's one of our big challenges, because we have men in every nook and cranny. I suppose in Irish Rail we have 144 stations, and it's a challenge to access or communicate with men. But the workplace, I feel, is a great starting point, because we have 90% of men over the 4 organisations there, and I suppose they are a captive audience. And in the last few years, we are really working on embedding a culture of well-being throughout the organisation. We're traditionally very much a safety orientated business, but the health piece is kind of a key element that is really in the last few years, really they're putting a lot of emphasis on. And we have a wellbeing managers now in all of the businesses, and we just in the last year or two we've got 120 wellbeing champions throughout the organisation. Wow. And these are a key piece of the jigsaw, and they're really good advocates on the ground, and we're getting a feel for what men want. And we would do kind of regular wellbeing questionnaires. And actually one question we asked, which was an unusual one, we asked, are you a family carer? And 48% of our staff reported. So that means we have a lot of men that are actually in a caring role. And our CEO in Irish Rail jail is actually a carer as well. So we have a webinar. It's Family Carers Week this week as well as Men's Health, but we're doing a dual piece on that with our CEO talking about his experience as a carer and his own health. So having that leadership commitment is priceless. You know, it's key. They really are behind us on all things well-being, and it's a growing area. We're building capacity with our champions, and it's growing all the time. And also, as transport, we're part of the sustainability group, and well-being is one of those pillars. So we're getting funding from that. But I suppose engaging men is I use the rules of engaging from my work as a facilitator, and I think that strengths approach, you cannot underestimate how strong that is. You go into, you ask them what's working well for them, and I'm also a health coach, so that's the first conversation you'd start with. First question is building that rapport, because men are amazing. They want to fix things and they come up with solutions themselves. So it takes away a lot of the work, but definitely that collaboration at the start. We ask them what they want and we try and respond to their answers.
Shane, I've both Anne and Charlie have referenced. I was saying I'd read a report on Men on the Move, and Anna's talking about the questions and research. You're a researcher, as you're many things, but having the lens, finding out the detail, important in relation to men's health on the island of Ireland, hasn't it been, and isn't it going forward? I think,
yeah, for sure, Larkin. You just asked me what are the key things, or
well, even just for yourself, like in research, that the findings are really, really important, aren't they, in relation to being able to stand on and saying this is what we know. Anna's just mentioned the rules of engagement. It's out of a specific piece of research. Your own experience of that, how important that has been in informing your own practice, even as a trainer as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think when we're doing our research, we kind of have a two-pronged approach, like evidence-based and user-informed, because you can go away and design the best evidence-based program ever that runs by all the rules, but as Anne and Charlie have alluded to, if you don't actually ask men for their input or ask them what they think of it, it might not work because it's not practical, or it doesn't involve things that they actually want to do. So no, I think evidence-based really, really important, and just using those kind of strategies that Anne and Charlie have talked about, and Mark and yourself and Collie have talked about, like strengths-based approaches, small changes, engaging men where they're at, even that idea of health IQ that Mark's talking about, but using appropriate language and things like that, it's super important.
Yeah, Charlie, when we're talking about Men on the Move, some of the findings, going back to what Dr. Mark Rowe said, the importance of connection. I mean, there was the physical experience of people getting out and learning to kind of get going again in relation to health and well-being, and sure Anne will find this as well, but they actually to be part of something and make those connections with other men around areas of our life that we mightn't talk about or share. That was a huge part of the Men on the Move, wasn't it?
Yeah, connectivity was huge there. I just say overall, I think it was 83% of the men that participated in the original pilot study were happy with their, I suppose, physical fitness levels at the end of the program. But I think it was over, 65% of the participants as well said that, they made great friendships and connectivity from the program. They were very happy with that, and I suppose this all reduced the benefits of the program. I mean, there's the obvious benefits of the program are, losing a bit of weight, maybe the quality of life, friendships, but there's other reduced anxiety, was big as well. And as it was alluded to already by one of the previous panel members, I think it was Dr. Mark said, that men then said, look, I'm on less medication because of the program. It's reduced my medication and the quality of life at home. We had one finding as well from, there was individual stories and that said that this woman, she was so thankful for the Men on the Move. The Men on the Move was a new going out for her husband. He wasn't going to the pub as often. He wasn't coming back in bad mood. The whole family life, was improved. So these are the hidden benefits of the program, and that can't be quantified. That sort of impact of being involved in a physical activity program, such as basic one that Men on the Move, that men latched onto.
Yeah.
Because why? Because I suppose the seniors has been relevant to them, and it's something that they could work with their peers. As I said, men work shoulder to shoulder. They also exercise, you know, and when you're shoulder to shoulder.
Shane, in relation to you know, your own experience, again, just staying with maybe some of the research you're finding, the demographics of men and engaging with health and health activity, it can depend on other things as well. You've done quite an amount of work in relation to the lenses of social determinants, subpopulations of men, where it can be more challenging maybe for men to actually find the motivation or find the connections. Is that true to your findings? Yeah, that there's other things we need to do to try and reach those groups of men as well.
Yeah, I think so, Larkin. Just the groups that I've worked with in the past of kind of middle-aged men or men in kind of disadvantaged areas in Northern Ireland, or at the moment we're doing a lot of work with construction workers and mental health. So I think, yeah, there are, I suppose, specific challenges that face each group, and that can come from things like their occupation, it can come from things like their background or where they grow up or their life experiences or whatever. But even though there are challenges, I'm hesitant to call them hard to reach groups, because we're probably hard to reach services for those groups. But I suppose, just to give an example, like, it doesn't mean that those groups can't be reached. Some of the research I would have done was evaluating arts programs for the most disadvantaged communities in Northern Ireland. You would think, but there's no way that that's going to work, because, you know, that's all working. That's not for men that live in those communities. And that's what those men actually talked about themselves. They said, if you would have told me at the start that I was painting and singing in nursing homes, there was no way I would have done that. But like what Anne had touched on, it was about, and Mark had touched on actually as well, it's about building that trust, and it's about active listening, and it's about giving men time to sit in the space and just kind of become familiar with it and just feel comfortable. And I think from there, like, the possibilities are really endless, but we just have to give people that time. And I think sometimes as service providers, we don't give people that time, and I think some men even pick that up. They feel like they're being rushed through stuff, and sometimes we just need to create that time and let people become comfortable and familiar, and really, I suppose, work with them to problem solve for their own health.
Yeah, creating that welcome. And I mean, you have standout moments, really conscious of time, folks. We could be here. We'd love to stay here chatting, but and for yourself, you know, even some of the standout moments, what Shane is saying, what are obviously that creating that safety, that warmth, that connection.
Yeah,
well,
I suppose I've run a lot of the men's health engage programs across the 4 businesses, but, you know, that time piece is key, because, you know, some men won't share in a group, but like having that time before the course starts. You know, we have we go down for lunch in the Black Lion in Inchicore, so it's a 10-minute walk, but it's that shoulder piece, and that's where I get they ask the questions they wouldn't maybe ask in a group. So, you know, not all, and even I suppose we do stuff online, and some people are uncomfortable. So we have to really think about how we deliver, and creating space for one-to-one is key. So we are doing a lot more live events, and they've been very powerful, and it's getting men together, supporting each other and communicating. But I suppose there's so many standout moments, and I suppose due to confidentiality I can't really talk about specifics, but I would say I suppose in my career and what the wellbeing services are doing now, I know there's men in work today that wouldn't have been there without the support of what we do, and what our champions are doing is just priceless. You know, we have champions that are the advocate for the invisible employee, the night worker, the fellow on the track that we don't see. So they are really bringing the information, and they are I suppose advocating and supporting our staff on the ground. So you know, a lot has happened in the last few years. As you know, previously I was just one person serving, you know, 4 businesses. Now we have, you know, a lot more teams involved in it, and yeah, no, it's you know, we want men to come into work, you know, mentally well and take off that mask and be honest. Now, there's still a lot of stigma and we still have a long way to go. But I would say there's more sometimes an issue of presentees and people coming into work unwell, you know, wearing the mask and grand. And I suppose, you know, we're in a safety critical industry and we want people to be mentally, mind and body and spirit well, you know. So it's a key component of the 4 businesses, the well-being piece.
Charlie, Anne is talking about that, you know, people being well, coming in and especially in the nature of the work that they're involved in, as you say, Anne, you need to be well and alert and all. Your own learning, if I was to ask you a standout moment for yourself, or, you know, if somebody who was starting off an initiative, you have a huge amount of experience now in growing and working with partnerships now. What are the things you would say that the golden rule, if you're going to engage with men, and especially maybe men who haven't been particularly active or have stepped away from the sport that was part of their lives or the activity side of their lives especially? Is there anything that stands out for you that you say, well, this is the way I would go?
Well, I have to say, Lorcan, there's one thing is that when you're talking to anybody, whether male, female, but even men, we're talking about men here today, if they're starting out on physical activity or whatever, thinking about it, you know, again, those behavior steps or whatever, right, that people are just thinking about it, but that they do something that they enjoy. That is paramount. You know, there's no point engaging in an activity and suddenly, I've seen it so often, somebody taking up you know, maybe a couch to 5K type program and mightn't have been into running, and next thing they're running every day of the week, and bang, they blow up. You know, like they just stop because they didn't pace themselves. They're not doing something that they enjoy. Probably they're doing it because maybe of, you know, oh, this is going to benefit my health, etc. That's important, but it's very important you have a balance. You've got to have a balance. You know, you got to do something you enjoy. You got to do an activity that you're going to do maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and maybe mix it in with a bit of walking or something light. Don't, you know, as I said, don't start off with something that is going to be, you know, probably exerting you too much. You're not going to enjoy it, and you're going to give up and go back to square one. And again, you know, it's said maybe a basic, somebody that hasn't exercised, little just encouragement like that meeting that we've had, that information meeting, the basic little health check, you know, it is good because it gives them an indication, you know, to do the PAR-Q test or whatever, that maybe I need to go to a doctor to have a little chat about this. You know, it just raises awareness. And we all talked about this awareness, the action man manual there that you have, you know, it leads into that, Lorcan, you know, which is brilliant. And I have to say, compliment everybody that's been involved in it. You know, again, that's something that's a resource. That's something you can point to. You know, and we have these workshops now as part of the Men on the Move. We have a diet workshop or mental health workshop, etc. You know, that's built in as well. That may, you know, creates that, you know, wider type, you know, knowledge base for men as well. But do things at their own pace and do something that they enjoy.
Okay, we're running on time, folks, but I want to give the last word to Shane. Maybe just around this, Shane, you've done a lot of writing and everything in here has come from some form of research that we can stand over. Your word to the men of Ireland in relation to getting their hands on this, what do you think you would say to people out there, you know?
Yeah, I think what Charlie has kind of said a lot of the things that I was going to say as well, and it's just I suppose, like what Charlie was saying, start small, you know, with that booklet. Just find one thing that resonates with you. Just start small and go from there. And as well, the other advice I would have, like in addition to what Charlie said about do something you enjoy, is find a place in your life where it might fit. You know, sometimes we have grand plans and we try to do too much at once, but like, where is the best place in your life that this one thing could fit? Is it 10 minutes in the morning? Is it 5 minutes after dinner? Do you know, somewhere I can fit in? And can you do it once this week? Don't set yourself a big goal. Can you do it twice next week? And just create those small little changes. And the second thing I wanted to say was around what Mark said about the community of care. And I know, Larkin, we kind of talked about this a couple of times, but it was about imagining an Ireland where all of the men we're looking out for each other, that there was this community of care and encouraging help seeking, encouraging exercise, and having that chat, are you okay, and just praising each other and encouraging other for things you've done well. And we all have a role to play in that. And I think, especially for young men, but every man in today in society, sometimes I think there's a lack of male role models for people to look up to. But could you envision an Ireland where everyone was one of those role models, that we kind of create that community care? And I think we all have a role to play in that. And I think there's a challenge for everyone. Can you do something positive today for a man in your life?
Okay, thank you very
I
much.
was just thinking even around the movement piece, like we have park hits and park runs and things like that, but even to volunteer, that's the first step. If you're not fit yet, you know, it's tiny steps getting people involved.
Thank you very much, Anne, and thank you very much, Charlie, and thank you, Shane, and to everybody that's been here with us today. They're good top tips as well. To be able to get our hands on this booklet is really, really important. Folks, I'm just conscious of time and we still want to launch this. So I'm going to say goodbye to Charlie and Shane and Anne, and thank you very much. And I'm going to invite on Fergal, because that's all I'm going to do today, because he's an important job to come on and talk to us about this and launch the week, Fergal, and bring us home safe. And thanks to everybody who was part of today, and especially our people who mind us in the background there, Integrated Media Solutions, and Dana Marie and the team. Thank you very much. Fergal, over to you, and go well for Men's Health Week, everybody.
Thank you very much, Lorcan, and thanks to everybody who's been working, organising today. And I suppose I'm delighted to formally launch the week on behalf of the HSE and launch the booklet that's been spoken about and promoted. I think we printed 30,000 copies of that booklet in conjunction with the Men's Health Forum and the Department of Health, and they've just gone like hotcakes. So we're looking to make it available for everybody. So if you can't get a hard copy and you'd like a hard copy for your setting wherever you're working or the people that you're working with, we will be distributing them and making them available. But they're available for download, and you can see the links are in the chat there. So I'm really pleased to see the level of activity that's taken place this year for Men's Health Week. Like, it's really phenomenal. I was looking at the list of events and things that are happening in the West, that we have a champion there, Lawrence Gahan, who's done so much work linking in with a variety of stakeholders. I think they've just numerous events happening with everybody from barbers to local sports partnerships getting involved, the likes of Charlie's work there in Mayo. I also saw this morning there was a tent set up in Kenmare Mart, and we had all sorts of men from the farming community rocking in there, and allies to Men's Health. So I just like to congratulate everybody that's kind of activating on Men's Health Week in their own way. And I suppose in terms of, like, today's webinar has been great, but I'd like it to encourage people to listen to the podcasts that have been referenced there. We've a great Men's Health podcast with Finian and Anne there that you heard earlier on with my colleague Eamon Keogh. We have another podcast that we did with Dr. Noel Richardson earlier in the year, and of course Dr. Mark Rose. If you're new to podcasts, give them a try, because they're very easy to consume, like radio listening. You can take a walk with them, or you can listen to them in the background, and there's some great information and easy to understand supportive information there. Another piece of information I'd like to highlight: the men's sheds were kind of flagged there by Dr. Rowe and others, and obviously the Irish Men's Sheds Association are a key partner of ours in their health and wellbeing work. But the Men's Sheds series on TG4 I think finishes up this week, and where it's like a 4-part documentary series that tracks a number of sheds and the activities that they've done in the sheds during COVID, and it gives a fantastic insight into kind of the well-being support that men themselves get out of sheds and give to their community. But you can watch it back on the player. It's on Thursday evenings. I think the last one is this week, but you can watch it on the TG4 player, and we'll send a link in the follow-up email. I suppose one of the things I'd like to reflect on myself, you know, before we finish here, is the men that I think of when I think of Men's Health or Men's Health Week, and how, you know, there's so many men in our life, and there's so many men, I suppose, like when we see the difference in morbidity and mortality between men and women, it may not look that stark, but we know that there's so many subgroups of men. Some of them have been referenced already in the conversation in the chat, that, you know, need special support or need a kind of a reach out approach. They're not going to, unfortunately, they're not yet good at taking care of themselves. They need that extra support. They need that encouragement. And we want to empower all men to look after themselves and take a proactive approach to their health. I'm just thinking myself of a neighbor of mine now who's just kind of, in his early 80s, and he's recently got some prostate trouble, and he's discussing with the few people that visit him, like myself, about how he's going to have to go up to St. James's Hospital. Is he going to go up and stay there? Is he going to go up and down for the number of sessions he's going to have to get done there? And he just one of his remarks when we were discussing this, it was like, because we were kind of encouraging him to get out and maybe take the train, or people would, one of his neighbors could give him a lift. Like, there's various ways of getting him there. But he said, I've lived here now for 20 years. For the last 20 years, he's been static, in its very kind of close community. And I just thought that, like, it's difficult to see through people's eyes if you don't engage with them. And there's so many people, like that just need a bit of extra support, and maybe going through a health challenge that they're not, discussing openly, without that, discussing other things with them. Like so many people have said, like Anne said there, about, walking shoulder to shoulder to people. So other men I think about, when it comes to Men's Health Week are, your father and your uncles and your brothers, and the people that you would have, played sport with, and as a lot of men I know are kind of reaching that middle age mark now, that, there's different set of priorities, but their health is even more important. Sorry now for the alarm in the background there. So I'd like you to think about the men in your life, and in the men in your kind of service, if you're working in a service, and the men in your workplace, and encourage them to engage in any activity at all. And there's such a myriad of things going on. If you follow the hashtag Men's Health Week at all this week, you'll see so many activities. Look, that's all I really want to say. I just like to encourage you to reflect on the men in your life and your service, and try and make Men's Health Week something that you can either engage in yourself or encourage others to engage in. And to close, I'd just like to thank absolutely everybody for taking the time to come on the webinar today, and all those people in the background that made it happen. So have a great Men's Health Week, and thanks very much.